All right, let's look at our Unit 2 for macro. And again, I kind of want to highlight the main ideas that you're going to encounter as far as equations and things that we're going to have to do calculations for on the exam. Because our FRQ is going to be open note, you're going to have to know how to do the math and work through it, I think. So, a couple things. GDP, right? Expenditure and income approach. Expenditure approach is consumer spending, business investment gross, government spending, and net exports. So keep that in mind. If you encounter anything that has minus depreciation or net business investment, it's the gross that we use. Also, it's net exports. Exports minus imports. Income approach, wages, rent, wages, interest, and profit with some statistical or tax adjustments, right? So it's all the payments made to the factors of production. Now, the big thing we talked about was nominal versus real and converting nominal GDP to real GDP. Real in general, when we're talking about interest rates, is just nominal minus inflation, okay? Your real wage increase, your interest rate increase. When we do GDP, it's a little more of a complex process. The real GDP is found by taking the nominal GDP divided by the deflator, okay? What is the deflator? The deflator is the price index in hundreds. What is the price index? The price index is the basket in the target year on the bottom, or on the top rather, and the basket in the base year on the bottom times 100. What I mean by that is we take the goods that, if we're doing the entire GDP, we take all the goods in the GDP from 1982, put them on the bottom, all the goods in the GDP in 1988, put them on the top, times 100, okay? That gives us our deflator. That shows us how much prices have increased, right, as a percent. And then we divide our we divide our nominal GDP by the deflator. And the deflator is this price index. That's that like 125. So if we get like a 125, what does that mean? Price has gone up 25%, right? We get a 200 index, prices have doubled. They've gone up 100%. And we divide the nominal by that deflator in hundreds. So if prices have gone up 100%, a 200 index, right? The price index would be 200 divided by, that's a 2. Prices have doubled, we divide by 2. It's a 200%, 200 price index, 100% increase, it's a doubling, we divide by 2. And don't forget, like if we do the inflation rate, that's the rate of change, usually measured from year to year, right? That's not in the price index form. So if you had a price index of 200, you wouldn't say we had a 200% inflation rate, you had a 100% inflation rate. A price index from one year to the next of 125 doesn't give you a 125% inflation rate. It gives you a 25% inflation rate, right? Okay? And unemployed over labor force, right? That seems pretty simple to figure out the unemployment rate, which is insane right now, unfortunately. Anyway, the key here is the labor force, right? Who's in the labor force? Anyone over 16, actively seeking work, who is not a discouraged worker, who's not dropped out. Anyone who's part-time is also not considered unemployed. Anyone who's incarcerated, retired, down the labor force. Interesting, with the current pandemic, there's a stipulation that you don't have to actively be seeking work right now, obviously, to qualify for unemployment. So there's kind of a twist here. We can consider you unemployed if you're not actively seeking work due to the pandemic or for whatever reason. So anyway, unemployed over the labor force, these are the main equations. Download the equation sheet, download the graph sheet, and focus on these as you go through. You'll get the big idea, and watch the videos from me, from ACDC, watch the College Board reviews. But this is what you really, I think, need to focus on. The equations that you have to use successfully to do calculations on the exam. So I think that's a big deal. Very short, Unit 2, right? With a few other things, and you'll see as you go through. But focus on these. Make sure you know how to do these equations. Look at the FRQs for practice and on your uploads, and we'll go from there. Hey, stop by Friday. It's where it all happens. I take this arrow, and I do any questions you have right up here on the old board of truth, okay? So we'll go over any of the FRQs you didn't understand, and we'll take any questions at that time, okay? There it is, guys. We will see you Friday. Thanks.